Topic our lineup here in the Now. On this Friday, after the big college admissions scandal, there are questions about what changes universities will be making. We're going to get some perspective on what's next. And with how just expensive weddings are these days, there's a new trend that people are actually downsizing. We're going to take a look at it and tell you what you can get for a whole lot less. Plus, telemedicine, it's getting more popular. Now a doctor could even send medical supplies to you. We're going to take a look at how that would work.
Chris, thank you so much. You are watching the Now Indy right here on RTV6. I'm Rafael Sanchez. Muncie Animal Care had to quarantine their animal shelter today after taking in neglected animals suspected of having disease. The shelter had a huge adoption event planned for this weekend. RTV6's Stephanie Wade is in Delaware County.
Well, if you try coming to the shelter here in Muncie, you'll quickly see that it's closed. They had a large 24-hour adoption event planned this Saturday, but that is now canceled. It's with a heavy heart and lots of tears that we have to post this. Muncie Animal Care tweeted out this morning, quote, "We removed several animals from a neglect situation, and due to the possibility of our shelter animals being exposed to disease and illness, and at the request of our veterinarians on our Animal Care and Commission Board, we have to close our kennel for 2 weeks." Several people showed up while we were there today hoping to check out animals to adopt, but were turned away when they saw this sign. A 24-hour no barking zone adoption event was planned for this Saturday, but the shelter says they have a, quote, "obligation and a responsibility to any potential adopter to ensure our animals are healthy for adoption." The shelter will open back up on Monday for cat adoptions only. The dog kennels will be closed until at least August 19th. As we learn more about where the animals came from and the condition they were in, we will bring that to you here on RTV6. Working for you in Muncie, Stephanie Wade, RTV6.
It is finally Friday, and a beautiful one here as we look over downtown Indianapolis. A lot of blue sky, just a couple of fair weather clouds out there, and that kind of happens when we have low humidity in place. In fact, I want to show you the impact on that lower humidity. This is the temperature and heat index, but you notice in most areas the heat index is a degree cooler than that temperature. It's 85 in downtown, but the heat index is 84. It does feel a degree warmer for you right now in Bloomington at 86. Storm Team 6 radar, nice and quiet scan for us this evening. So if you have some evening plans as you get ready to head out the door, don't need to accessorize with that umbrella. We'll keep it mostly clear here through 11 o'clock. Our temperature will go from 83 at 7 into the lower 70s by 11 o'clock. So it's going to be a comfortable night. We'll talk more about that. Some areas will actually start off the weekend in the 50s. It will be warm, though, as we go into the afternoon. Plus, we'll talk about that next chance for some needed rain in your backyard. Chris?
A third state's now making it legal for doctors to prescribe medical marijuana in situations where they would usually prescribe an opioid. Colorado just making it legal today. It's already legal in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. In most states where medical marijuana is legal, it's usually used for pain relief. Now, this new law is different because it can now be legally prescribed to post-op patients with pain from an injury. Right now, there's no definitive research that says that we should and can be replacing opioids with medical marijuana, but some states are already seeing results. Take Illinois. It's testing a similar program where doctors prescribe medical marijuana. Patients need to re-register every 90 days if they want to continue in the program. Nearly 77,000 people have signed up since the program started. The Minnesota Health Department studied the effects of people switching from opioids to medical marijuana. 63% of people reduced their use or stopped using opioids completely within 6 months. We actually spoke to a man who used marijuana as a form of detox from prescription painkillers.
I wasn't feeling as shaky as most people or as I had done before when I tried to go clean. I wasn't sweating as much. I was able to have an appetite. I was able to gain almost 40 pounds.
Now, he's been sober for 4 years now. His doctors in the states that have legalized prescription marijuana say that this will at least start conversations between patients and doctors about how to treat their pain, even if marijuana isn't what they end up using. Let's turn to the Now News feed. China says it will push back on President Trump's newest tariff threat. The president said new tariffs on $300 billion of Chinese imports will start in September because he was not happy with how trade negotiations were going. Today, the NYPD commissioner recommending the officer involved in the death of Eric Garner be fired. The officer put Garner in a chokehold back in 2014. Doctors say Garner died of a heart attack. The officer is now suspended until an official ruling comes down this month. Juul e-cigarettes are the target of so much talk because of teen vaping. Now, the AP is reporting that the company is making most of its political donations to Democrats in Congress. Juul wants Congress to pass a bill that raises the minimum age for smoking from 18 to 21 without any other regulations. Let's jump back into our lineup here. And after the big college admissions scandal, there are so many questions about what universities will now do. We're going to get some perspective on what's next ahead.
50 rallies and checkers. Best foodies know the deal.
Welcome back to the Now Indy on this Friday afternoon. In Bloomington, we'll soon have a new set of regulations to govern the use of scooters in the college town where both Bird and Lime have operations. Scooter parking will be allowed on city sidewalks. That's a change from an earlier city council decision. Now scooters cannot simply be dumped on sidewalks. They must be parked upright with enough room for people to walk around them. Riders could be fined for obstructing driveways, vehicle parking spaces, loading zones, ramps, fire hydrants, building entrances, parking meters, commercial displays, crosswalks, and utility poles. When a scooter rider spots a person with a visual impairment, they must get off their scooter and walk around the person. These rules all go into effect September the 1st.
College students are starting to go back to school for the new school year. Some schools have new checks in place to prevent admissions fraud from happening. California's university system says it's now doing more to track donations and the impact they could potentially have on who's getting in. Also, it's making sure that recruited athletes actually play for the team they were recruited for. Now, there may not be widespread change in admissions. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. The Journal talking to 40 colleges and found almost none of them were putting in a formal audit process to make sure that college applications truly tell the story of a student. Now, we've seen admissions aren't fair. That's certainly an example of that. But it's also not the only part of the college process where people are trying to take advantage. Just this week, the Wall Street Journal found several families, wealthy ones near Chicago, transferring legal custody of their college-bound children to family members or friends who make less money. This way, those students can now qualify for financial aid, which may seem unfair, it may be unfair, but it's not illegal.
In some cases, when some families game the system, whether it's legal or not, when they're gaming that system to appear more needy than they really are, they really could be taking dollars that really have been designed for even needier families.
Now, the Education Department's taken notice of this. It is now trying to close this loophole. Now, Justin Drager, who you just heard from, he's the CEO of the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, and says the sad part with a lot of this is whatever the Education Department does to stop this loophole, well, most likely lower income families will be hurt the most.
The people that will most certainly lose in all of this are the really low income families who have students that are in legitimate legal guardianships. Because in those scenarios, whatever process we put in place to try to nip this in the bud, they'll inevitably have to jump through additional bureaucratic hoops to prove that they are in legitimate legal guardianships.
Now, this is the company the Wall Street Journal says pushed for families to use that strategy, actually transferring custody of their children. Name of the company is Destination College. It is out of Illinois. The company's owner told the Journal that she doesn't feel like she found a loophole. She says all the information to know how to do this was available to everybody online. She didn't return our calls for comment. All right, let's get back to our lineup. And with just how expensive weddings are these days, there's a new trend of people now actually downsizing. We're going to take a look at this trend and exactly what you can get for a whole lot less.
Keller and Keller.
Let's start the Now Newsfeed. A Change.org petition is calling for "In God We Trust" to be removed from public buildings for being unconstitutional. The petition's targeting the U.S. Supreme Court, Kentucky State House and Senate, and South Dakota's State House and Senate. In June, the Supreme Court denied a petition calling for that phrase to be taken off of U.S. money. Experts are pushing to make this special firefly you see right here a member of the federal endangered species list. This firefly, it's mostly in Delaware, and it has a special green flash. Experts say sea level rise and insecticides are putting this bug's future at risk. Well, if clowns creep you out, we're going to be honest, this is not an event for you. Alamo Drafthouse is having a special viewing of the movie It Chapter 2 for only clowns. Alamo's having it at more than a dozen locations across the country, so I guess you'll know where not to go for those nights. The movie will debut for everybody, clown or not, September 5th. What seemed like a group of thieves had a great plan. Their MO, police say, using their jobs as delivering Amazon packages to steal the items instead of delivering them. Jace Larson's here, and Jace, you know, this ring, it went on for years, so just how many packages do police think they stole?
Chris, we're not talking a small-time operation. Police say that this stretched nationwide and involved more than 100,000 items. Here's how it went down. A group of Seattle area pawn shop owners would buy stolen merchandise, the FBI says, and then sell it through their own store on Amazon.com. Now, Amazon sells items directly to you. We all know that. But its website also allows private companies to list products. We got our hands on this search warrant that was first reported by the Associated Press. The warrant claims that the men stole property from Amazon customer returns when they worked for Amazon. The FBI alleges that those items then showed up for sale online. Agents also say that pawn shops bought brand new, still in the package merchandise from just random people who were thought to be homeless. In one case, the sellers appeared to be transient men, and they brought in several brand new canisters of baby formula. Other people brought in electronics, tools, and even sewing machines. Evidence really started to mount when agents went undercover inside and discovered that the pawn stores didn't sell anything on their shelves. Investigators think that this whole thing has been going on since 2013. No one has been charged yet, so we're not naming the suspects. But I want you to look at this figure from court documents. The FBI alleges that the people involved made at least $10 million. It's important to note that the suspected stolen items were resold through third-party companies on Amazon.com, not directly from Amazon.
This is a heartwarming scene at Riley Hospital for Children this week. A Bloomington boy who has survived his battle with leukemia got to meet the man who saved his life. Trevor Walden had been battling leukemia when his doctors told him that he needed a stem cell transplant. After waiting, a donor emerged all the way from the West Coast. Sam Halstis lives in Oregon and says his stem cells that saved Walden's life. And strangers united by a selfless act finally got to meet in person this week at Riley Hospital for Children.
It was just amazing to finally get closure on who gave me my life, who saved me from, what would have been the other option.
And I'm just grateful and honored to be part of it in this way. And it's just amazing because Trevor is so healthy. He just looks so great.
What an amazing reunion and donation. Riley Hospital for Children says you can be a real life hero every day and save someone's life. That's the power of donations. There will soon be a new life for an empty brewery in Broad Ripple. Sun King Brewery plans to open a tap room at the site of the former Three Wise Men Brewing Company on Broad Ripple Avenue. Sun King says it will be a family-friendly venue that will have Sun King beer and spirits along with local food. The new Sun King tap room expected to open this fall.
Well, we know it can be hot in early August, and typically it is when we get to time for the Indiana State Fair. But today, really beautiful weather as we're taking a live look there at the Coliseum. And this evening, we're going to continue with very comfortable conditions. Right now, our temperature 85 degrees in Indianapolis and Bloomington, 82 with sunshine for you in Kokomo. And there's that north breeze around 10 miles per hour for us this evening. It'll calm down just a little bit this evening, northeast around 5. But look at our temperatures. They'll cool back into the lower 60s in Indianapolis, and I think surrounding areas will get down into the 50s to start off tomorrow morning. Already back to 70 degrees, though, by 9 a.m. Lots of sunshine here in your Saturday forecast, and that will send those temperatures to 80 by noon. And we'll get into the middle and even some upper 80s tomorrow afternoon, around 85 by 4 o'clock. You'll see those temperatures 87 in Columbus, Danville, and Hendricks County coming in at 84, and Muncie at 86 degrees. So maybe you need to get caught up on some of that yard work now that the weekend is rolled around. Looks like you'll be in great shape both Saturday and Sunday with dry weather. That even continues into Monday. It's by the middle of next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, when we start to see those rain chances building back in. Next 4 days of your forecast, temperatures creeping up a little bit here. 87 on Saturday and Sunday, close to 90 on Monday. But before we get there, it looks like the rain chances will roll in on Tuesday and cool us down a little bit. Chris?
The CDC has a new tool that shows users their risk for prediabetes by just answering a few simple questions, things like family history and physical activity. Now, you may be skeptical about taking an online test, but we talked to a doctor who says it is a great way for patients to talk about their health.
Informed patients are always great because they come to the encounter or the appointment with their physician more informed and can make choices together with the physician and have a conversation about the diagnosis or the treatment plan.
In this case, depending on what type of result you get, you may talk to your doctor about a simple blood test for diabetes. Now, you do want to take this information with a grain of salt. If you have a health test or even find health information online, you really want to make sure you know who is giving you that information.
You have to have a trusted source. So to begin with, I trust the CDC. The CDC is very data-driven. It's a reliable source. And so if they have a screening tool that's probably been vetted based upon data and research, I would trust the source.
Now, besides the CDC, you can also look at your local healthcare system's website. They usually have information and resources online, and you can also look at government-sponsored sites and information from the National Institutes of Health. All right, let's start the news feed. Some solid jobs news coming out today. The unemployment rate staying at 3.7%, which is just above the 50-year low. That's according to the Labor Department. A North Carolina state study is arguing that e-scooters are actually worse for the environment than most people realize. Now, even though scooters are electric, the study's pointing to the pollution that's created to build the scooters, many times in China, and the gas that's used to bus them around to set them up in cities as ways that they actually hurt the environment. Many people criticize Facebook for following just too much of our private information, getting too much into our lives, but apparently the social network doesn't care because the Trademark Office recently granted a patent to include advertising in your direct message conversations. Weddings can be really expensive, so that has some people now going in the opposite direction. Annie Taylor is showing us the growing trend of micro weddings.
It's that time of year, wedding season, and more couples are opting for a less traditional ceremony.
Well, micro wedding in general, I mean, a lot of times it comes down to guest count. I mean, I like to say anything below 60 people.
Unlike eloping, Ivor Margerson, founder of Colorado Micro Wedding, says going micro still has some of the same traditional aspects.
I find them a photographer, I find the flowers, the cake, the venue, the bartender, all of these pieces that I've already vetted, talked to them, made sure that they have packages that fit micro weddings, and I help you put all those pieces together. And once you have those pieces, the couple usually just takes it from there.
Most of those opting for this route are couples in their late 20s and 30s looking to save big on their big day.
They're also more budget-minded, more experience-based. They'd like to save some money and backpack in Asia for an extra week on their honeymoon, and certainly more likely to break a tradition.
Get this, a micro wedding can cost as low as $1,000.
Even with a group of maybe 40 to 50 people, I can put together a day for $5,000 or $6,000, which is, you know, what you might spend at a bar for a more traditional wedding.
Clearly, micro weddings are cost-effective, especially when you compare it to the cost of a traditional wedding, which on average is about $33,000 according to NerdWallet. Now, Ivor says not only are micro weddings budget-friendly, he's planned them under 7 days. Affordable doesn't mean poor quality. Look how beautiful these micro weddings turned out. And at the end of the day, as long as the bride's happy, that's all that matters.
Of course, I love big weddings. Like, I love being at big weddings, but for certain kinds of people, especially inclined to stress, micro weddings certainly have advantages.
I'm Annie Taylor reporting.
All right, Andy, thank you. And finally in our lineup, it is getting even easier to connect with a doctor without having to leave your home. We're going to talk about how Uber is even getting involved in telemedicine now and what this will mean for quality of care that you'd get.